Hello and welcome. This is the Tiffany's Fitness Podcast, and my name is Tiffany. This week's guest is Monica Boldt. She is an awesome coach, and you can find her on Instagram at Bold Fit Technique, and her website is also Bold Fit Technique. She is a beautiful mover with the clubs, so you should check her out. Her club workshops, they're coming up in LA, Vegas, Charleston, and Klamath Falls, Oregon. So check those out if you're interested in learning more about clubs and enjoy this episode. I'll be back at the end.
Was like how did you start with strength training? How did you get into strength at all?
My story, right.
Yeah.
So I've been in the business for about 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up not an athletic child. I was kind of pale and sickly and not athletic. But I started figure skating when I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
So got on the ice at 4, did that for like 14 years. Wasn't super great at it because I'm taller, like I'm 5'7.5". So most figure skaters are 5'3" or shorter. So everything's easier for
Are
them.
they really?
Oh yeah.
I guess it makes sense. They have to be small so they can literally be thrown around, right?
Sure. Everything's easier
flip.
if you're trying to jump or do everything. So I had to work harder. I developed a lot of discipline, a lot of grit, a lot of perseverance through lots of falling and stuff. And, but that's kind of what started. And so with figure skating, we took, ballet. That's when I got into personal training as far as like me getting a trainer. So I started that when I was 15, and, I still have like great memories. I remember the trainer's name. I remember what she looked like. At that time is at an all women's gym. So it was kind of back in the day where it's only women. But I had a great time. Like I fell in love with it. So I just always had a vision. I'm like, I know I'm not athletic, but this is where I want to go,
Yeah.
So during that time and like my teenage years, I would pick up, women's health or women's, some of the health and fitness magazines, and I would look through the programs. I'm like, that's what I want to be. So I would try out all this stuff. Of course, a lot of trial and error, didn't necessarily hit the goals.
Especially with those magazines where it's like probably like very low weight, high rep, because that's like what it was, at least like not that far away ago. Like it was
it was a lot of bodybuilders, splits and
that too.
Yes, there's a lot of that too. At least the ones I gravitated towards. And here's a meal plan: eat 6 meals a day, 8 meals a day, or whatever. So did all that. But once I got out of figure skating, I got into tennis, did that for a long time. But in my early 20s, that's when I knew I wanted to actually just get into the fitness biz and become a trainer myself. So did that. I think once I was pretty much a barbell free weight lifter, kind of bodybuilding style for a long time. But once I got introduced to kettlebells, that's when my life changed, and I developed more of that athletic style training, and I loved the results, and I loved how capable I was feeling with just everything. So did the RKC back before it split off into Strong First. I did that. And then several years later, I went back and got certified Strong First Elite. So did all that stuff. And then of course, got into Indian clubs. So I'm always curious about a lot of different modalities. We only have so much time and only one of me. But
that's the thing. It's hard to do everything. Like that's what I was just trying to figure out, because like I really want to keep doing my sports stuff, but I can't do sport like the volume of kettlebell sport and then also train bent presses to the capacity that I would like to train them. My body does not like that at all, because I have tried a few times. And so it's like, man, I wish I could do both, but I think I just started a new program for bent pressing, and I'm trying to figure out how I can like squeeze in my other modalities that I like
to
do.
Are you programming for yourself, or do you have somebody else program your bent press stuff for you?
It's a mix right now. So do you know Dan Pareo?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's not like he's like my bent press mentor, like sort of person. So we've been working together on like a program, but like I kind like he's giving me like a good framework. We're doing like a conjugate style training, which is like
Come on.
Not something people have done for like bench pressing really. So we're not really sure what the vibe is. So we're kind of building it out at the moment. Him and like, I think his coach is also like, it's like a 3-way like of like feedback happening. So we built it out of what the basics are. This is literally, I just finished week 2 like 30 minutes ago. So like it's kind of like a collaboration. I don't think I'm like doing it all on my own, but I'm doing a lot of it on my own, which is fine with me because I really like programming. I need someone else to tell me when I'm fucking up a little bit, which is what Dan does. Yeah, I complain to him all of the time. And so he's also sort of the person that got me into bench press training the way that I train it, because we had been messaging back and forth years ago, and he saw me do some bench press, and I wasn't like training bench press, I was just doing bench presses, and he was like, you could like do bench presses, like you could train this and like be very fucking good at it. And I was like, how? We'll see. And then when COVID happened and I moved out here, and he was like, he just sent me like a little like program like framework like thing, and he's like, just this one's like once a week, just give it a shot, see how it feels. And then I started that, and then I did that whole program. It was like 6 months long or whatever, and it got stronger, and I was like, that's really cool. Okay, like, and I liked doing it like that. Like, I like the feeling of a bench press.
Yeah,
like there's like a good, like it feels good when it feels good, you know.
That's what I always say. It's like, without bench presses is not a good week.
Yeah, like if you like, you don't like, and it's hard to explain if you don't know, like, you know. like with a bench press, like my husband does not get it like at all. He does not like I've tried to show him because it's like my thing. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like, there's like a rhythm almost to it, like not really, but like there's, you know.
Yes.
And so I was trying to get him to like try it, and he's like, this does not feel right. And I know that's the case for a lot of people, because it does have like a lot of prerequisite mobility and strength and lots of things you have to be able to do to get into it. So I like the way I felt doing it. So then we started this other program that was like a year long, that ended up taking like 14 months to do, because 14 or 16, because I took breaks because I got COVID last summer, and that threw me for a loop, because I couldn't go into a gym and train, and I was training barbell for half. I was gonna like go risk the lives of everyone around me, so I could get my gains. Try not to be an asshole, you know, and also I live on a military base, and they would be very mad at me if they found out. I'm not playing games here. And yeah, so then I did that very, very long program, and I finished that a few weeks ago when I hit my 50K barbell. And now we're trying, I took a few weeks off, and now we're trying this, and I'm liking it so far, but also it's relatively light so far, so it's really easy.
Right. I'm not lifting the heavy weights. Like, wait, what?
It's kind of nice though. Like at the end of that last program, I was wiped out. Like there was a lot more recovery, and also my workouts were a lot longer, because I had to rest so much between sets just to be able to do the next set. And it was like a powerlifting program essentially, and it was a lot. It was not meant for a bench press. We just sort of were like, let's see if this works for bench pressing, because we haven't really found like a program that's just like was made for bench pressing, you know.
I think you're right, because that's interesting. So when I was playing around with it, so I'm not like reaching any goals on bench press right now, because I have like Strong First Iron Maiden I'm training for, so I have some other things. But when I would go in, it you know, and I'm sure you know, especially with kettlebells, maybe some days you feel maybe more sensitive on your forearms or wrists to like heavier bells, and other times you go in and you're like, wow, I feel great, I don't feel anything on there. Of course, when you're doing barbell, you don't have that dilemma at all. Now you've got stability in the wrist.
I have a whole another problem.
Yes. But it's
Yeah,
interesting, like I would go in on bench press oftentimes with very minimal warm up, and I would do a few sets with 24, whatever, get up to 28, 32, and then I would just try to go for the heaviest as possible as soon as possible before I would get any
before the fatigue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's really just maybe the pressure here that gets too much, and I would try all sorts of things, but I would say a lot of the times my PRs on that were, I was training my other stuff, I was being strong, and I would just kind of hit on it maybe one time or twice a week, and I was PR.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of know myself, like too much on a particular lift can regress me, but knowing just enough and going in, I would make bigger leaps and bounds instead of kind of like grinding it, too much. So I think everyone has to kind of find that out, but I think it follows any kind of strength protocol in general. So, but I love doing, I don't know, do you do bench press for reps? Cause I love actually repping out bench press.
Yeah. And I don't know a lot of, I was by the end of my last program, I was doing 5x5 with the barbell, which I don't know anyone who really does barbell bench presses for reps. Everyone I've talked to fucking hates barbell bench press for reps.
I've done it.
It's hard. Yeah. It's really fatiguing on this system. So, by the end of it, you're just like totally fried.
Yes.
Which is, but like it's like not like sometimes it was a bad fry depending on like every other thing happening in my life, but like usually it was like I was like it's like good, like I put the fucking work in sort of fried, which I'm always not afraid of. I've been working out for a really long time. I know when those limits hit for me, so I can push those limits a little bit more. But yeah, I liked kettlebell bench press for reps is awesome. It's super, and I think the kettlebell really lends itself to that as well because of the shape of it. It really wants to like push itself in the right position. You can kind of sling it back there, and then you hit your rep, and it feels good. Barbells,
you got that long.
Everything's trying to leave. It's trying to escape all of the time.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But I really like it. I'm gonna try. I think this next week I have dumbbells, and I've never done dumbbells really.
I have done dumbbells. I've PR'd on dumbbells and gotten heavier with that. And I mean it's the same concept, obviously, because I think one of the advantages of kettlebells for sure with bench press is that even though you have the weight on your forearms, you also got that stability in your wrists, right?
Yeah.
So then when you go to a dumbbell or a barbell, now all of a sudden you got to really be focused on that wrist maintaining the strength and stability. And that's another whole animal. I think that's why it's scarier. So
I for the wrist thing at the end of when I was doing kettlebell, just strictly kettlebell bench presses, I used kettle guards. They had sent me some kettle guards because I'm a sport person, and that's mostly what they like promote it to, and I didn't really need it for my sport training. It was really nice when I did jerks and and biathlon because everything was fried. Biathlon's fucking terrible, but what I really liked it for was my bench press because I could pop it right where that pressure was sitting, and I could put that thing, and then I didn't have the inserts in or anything, but it just like took a little bit of the pressure off of my forearm, and I was like, oh, this is so much more doable with just like a thick sweatband. Like that's all it took, and I was like, oh my god, I can do this so much better now.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the wrist wraps too. I had never used wrist wraps, and Peter Curtis, who will be on an episode before this, he told me, he's like you should get wrist wraps, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I thought he was talking about straps. And I was like, that sounds so scary to like strap, like, and he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's just a wrist. It's just for your wrists. And I was like, but you're strapping yourself to the bar, because I thought it was like the deadlift straps. And he was like, no, don't strap yourself to the bar. And I was like, so then he just sent me this video being like, these things, don't put them on the bar. And I was like, oh, okay. And that really helped with my barbell stuff, because it's so hard to to like hold that bar and like not let it move. I've been trying, well, like I try to like do like most of my work without it so I can like still build up the wrist strength. But once you hit a certain point, like you're gonna need something
You're gonna need something.
to like a little extra support so my wrist doesn't feel like it's gonna break while I'm trying to
Well, it's
balance 50
like
kilos.
weight belts for deadlifts or anything like that. Eventually you just need extra support to brace
You
against.
just need a little extra. It was I'm not like using like I never think about using equipment because kettlebell is so like you don't really use equipment with kettlebell. You don't want to use gloves. Like that's like a big thing I know. You don't use those. Sometimes people use sweatbands, but that's really all you use is that and chalk. So like going into the field of like essentially like powerlifting, strongman stuff, I don't have I don't have the knowledge of all of these weird tools that people use to like add pounds, kilograms to their sorry, my daughter.
Well, you bring up a good point because the stability factor, like we know, with training people and stuff, especially women, the stronger your grip is, the more that you can lift. So same thing with when you're getting to those edges of poundage on kettlebells or deadlift or whatever, anything that's going to aid in more stability is all of a sudden increase your strength because you're able to create more tension. So and you're getting it from all points and your joints are stacked up and everything like that. So, I mean, it is amazing once you start, because I was similar where for the longest time, I'm super minimal, didn't use really anything extra, but I use a weight belt now. I'll use wrist straps just for stability, or sometimes I'll use the straps for deadlifts or whatever. And it makes a difference. And it's exciting because you feel extremely strong and you're like, hey, I don't have an ego about it.
My hands can only do so much.
Yeah.
Like they're strong. Like I think I have good grip, like relative strength.
Obviously,
like I think it's good. But there's only so much like some parts of my body are going to be able to handle. And my quads and my hamstrings and my glutes are always going to be able to move more weight than my hands. So I might as well help them out in that front. So it's kind of fun though, to like when he told me to get straps or wraps, and I was like, all right, we get them. So I got them. I got some super cheap ones on Amazon, and then I was able to add I don't know how much it was. I feel like it was 10 kilograms to like what my barbell PR had been, and I was like, that's freaking sick. Like that's so cool that I can now just do that. And it's like and it was such a it's like almost like demoralizing to go from kettlebell to barbell because I lost so much of my like working weight because I couldn't do it with a barbell.
Well, so go from like barbell front squats, right? So go from barbell front squats. If you can do that, you can lift a lot. And then you do that with 2 racked kettlebells and you're like, I've got to keep dropping the weight because it's so much harder.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the inverse there, you're have to do less because of just how it's shaped, how it pulls you forward more. You're sitting lower versus having your elbows up. I mean, it goes both ways. So like, that's the benefit, I think, of training both systems because you're just challenging your body in different ways and getting strong. Both.
Yeah, I think it's super good, cool too. Like to see that crossover.
Which brings up
and I think it's
how do you, so I know you do mace and clubs and I have my own thoughts about that too. So like, have you, when you're training bent press, maybe bent press specifically, but it's just kind of about how do you feel like the mace and clubs has helped you in that?
So today specifically, actually, so we've been trying to figure out like a good warm up for my bent presses. So this is going to be super boring for anybody who doesn't know anything about strength training, but we just started doing like a Wenning style warm up. So it's like the very long 12 minutes, like kind of hardcore warm up. So you're kind of like getting your cardio up, everything's kind of burning. And it's like four sets of, I'm doing 20 at the moment. But I think it's supposed to be 25, but I'm not there yet. But I did mace today in my warm up because one of the things I need to work on is my triceps. because my triceps are one of the things that's, you know, a little bit of a limiting factor. So I think my plan at this moment is to add some more like single arm mace work and like higher volume to start building up. And I think it really helps specifically for kettlebell bent press because you're coming in this back area. And that's the spot you're supposed to be loading your bent press into. Same thing with the clubs. You're coming into this back, like you're hitting your lats, and not that it's like super heavy with clubs, at least not the clubs I do. But like you're opening yourself up and getting that you're opening your shoulders up. So that way when you do get into your bent press rack, you're a little bit more it's more comfortable. Like I've never had a problem getting into my bent press rack. And I know that's like a thing for some people when they come into it. I also think I got mobility drilled into me when I started doing kettlebells on kettlebell sport because I was working with Brittany, and Brittany had us doing a lot of mobility work. So I've always been doing mobility work basically since I've started like legitimately training sport and like getting into like actual kettlebell training. So and I just kind of never stopped because don't want
You're right.
to.
It's the key thoracic mobility that a lot of people will lack. It's just not. It's not because they don't have access to it per se. It's just not ever really trained. So
yeah,
it's underutilized.
Yeah, so I think the crossover is really helpful. I like especially for that beginning position where like people have a like I said tricky time getting into this packed rack position. And I think doing this big club movement, opening up my shoulders, mace where I'm coming in this back area, is been hugely beneficial. I don't think it helps like hugely on like the strength factor of it unless I went super heavy, but I don't because I don't have heavy clubs, or I just barely got a heavy mace. And yeah, it also keeps it more interesting too.
It does. You might notice then, so just like I guess with kettlebells too, I noticed, I mean, once you reach a certain point and like the weight and you jump up to certain, like anything above like 24 kilos and stuff, you start seeing how your body responds to that. It's just different, right? So same thing like mace and clubs. I think when, you know, if you're swinging a 10-pound mace, there's a lot of benefits to that. It's lighter, it's loose, you get a lot of benefits. But then if you're jumping up to 15, 20 to 25 pounds, all of a sudden grip is immensely challenged because we know, just like swinging a heavy kettlebell, like one arm swings, maybe with 32, 44, you also got energy that's trying to pull the kettlebell out of your hand. So therefore it's more weight, right? Same thing with the mace. So now you've got the grip factor, I think, and the muscular, the lats having to control that as well. That's where I see it kind of having a bit of a crossover into like bent press or any kind of the strength work, because now the grip is challenged. The muscles are challenged a little bit more because of the speed and the weight increasing.
Yeah, I got like I said, I got my, I guess it's not been that recent, but I got it last fall. I got my heavier mace, and the first day I used it, because I've been swinging 10 pounds for a while, and I was able to do like 30 single arm mace like swing, like 360s, and I was like, okay, it's time. Like I can't, and this is I need to step it up. So my friend for my birthday, like she got me this one, anyways. It came and there was not like knurling on the like bar, so it's just like a fucking steel pipe, and it was thicker than the one I had, and I got blisters for the first time in like a million years of doing mace work. I was like, what the hell is this? I haven't had this happen in so long. Like my hands, I mean, when you first start,
right there.
Yes, there, and like I got some on my pinky too, because I was like death gripping it because I just felt it slipping, and I was also outside, so I was sweating a whole. It was there's a lot of choices made, and I was like, what is this? And so I actually got medical tape, and I wrapped it so I'd have something to hold on to, because I just was slipping so much because there was just nothing to grip onto.
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely challenges. Like so obviously, like I have an Onyx quad mace, which is more of a wooden handle. It's thick, it's kind of smooth. Then I have one that has a pommel at the end. Then I swung Gata, which is bamboo, and it's thinner. And more of the weight is at the, the head portion. So all of those are different. I mean, the ones that got the thicker handle, that taxes the grip like no other. And you're just blisters. And
I was so surprised because at that point I'd been swinging a mace for years. So like, and I had swung a heavier mace before, but it had been when core was still open, so like 2019. So like it had been a minute since I had swung anything heavier than my 10 pounds, and I was so surprised. I was so confident going in because I did my 360s, and I was like, oh, it's not so bad. But after like 20 of them, I was like, it's over. Like my hands are going to fall off.
Yeah,
it was wild. It doesn't take much to like change that like training stimulus.
No.
Like it was just like little tweaks, and then all of a sudden you're like, that feels entirely different and so much harder.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
How did you start doing mace training? Like, how did you find the mace?
So, obviously through social media.
Yeah.
Because living in Texas here and kind of the gyms that I worked at, not once have I ever seen anything. I mean, I knew through On It, kind of their kettlebells and unconventional stuff, but where I live, unconventional training, even kettlebells now, is not that popular. You'd be surprised. I always talk about that, how the online space is more receptive to unconventional training. People are actually seeking it out. And there's a whole community, but then in real life, I don't know if you find this, it's still sometimes it's like, what are kettlebells? So trying to get people into clubs or mace, that's really bizarre. But I got into it through Kelly Manzoni and Kelly, and then John Parker, he's not in social media anymore, but he was in in San Diego. So it's through a community of that. And I went to a workshop with her and John Oden, who does the Highland Games out in the Pacific Northwest. So that was in Seattle, and got some good training with that, and just went on my way.
So, here we are. Yeah, I saw it. I got it. I found it through social media too, prior to like training and coaching at Core. I saw it with who was it? It was Anthony Rock's fitness training.
Yes, yeah.
He was the first person I saw doing mace stuff. And he posted all these really cool flows, and I was like, and he was like outside, and he's in like, I think he's in the Pacific Northwest, so it's stunning, and I miss the Pacific Northwest so much. So I was just like sitting there like obsessed over his videos, and I was like, man, I want to do that. And then somewhere in that I moved to San Diego, and ended up at Core, and they had maces, and I didn't really do a whole lot of maces there because I was doing sport training. So like when I first started like I wasn't coaching there, I was just training there. And I would just go do my kettlebell sport training, and there wasn't really like a lot of time to mess around with the mace. So I just ended up buying one myself, and started learning how to do it. And man, I saw some of those first videos. They're rough.
When people reach out to me for coaching or whatever, and they're showing me stuff, I'm like, oh, I remember the little wiggle, and just like,
I remember like this, just like pulling it over the front of your face. Like it's not, and that's the other thing is, I think when people see like me or you like doing the things that we're doing with like maces, and I mean you're significantly better with a lot of these things, but they look and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. And I was like, I looked like the way that your movements looked like at one point, like not that long ago. You just have to like be okay with like being bad for a minute, like, and that's gonna have to be part of it. I found one of my first Indian club videos, because I started doing that at Core 2. Two out of my 3 pairs of clubs are from Core, and I was just like, I'd pick them up, and then I would like do this, pull it back, do this, pull it back, and I was just like doing like a hold, and I was up. I'm like, my shoulders were so high, and I was like, oh my god. So I have a client that I was like teaching like some club basics just like for warm-up purposes, and she was like, man, I just want to like be able to flow like the way that you're flowing. And I was like, let me let me track down some videos for you because I looked so silly. You're doing great. You just have to get through the like learning all of the weird patterns before
Right.
before you can do. I mean, basically, I know like 6 things, and I just put them in a different order, and it looks really nice.
And that's what it is, because like I always say it. I use analogy. It's like a foreign language. So with club swinging, you're learning like individual words or patterns. Then you learn like the transitions were kind of like the transitional words, and then eventually you make sentences. So some people, I'm like, you can stick with the bread and butter and the basics. Like you don't have to get overly complicated. Now, if you want to go down the endless path of club swinging, by all means, it's just going to challenge your brain even more. And that's why, like I had several sessions with, Paul Volkovinsky in Australia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's my club mentor and teacher and stuff. And, he has his own unique style. And I took lessons from him last year. And so you can look at his stuff and maybe he's not doing a ton of different patterns, but he's so good on the tempo, the timing, a rhythm thing, using body turns. Like it blows your mind how incredibly complex it is, even though it looks simple. And so that's been a really cool challenge, because sometimes we can just do all the different fun stuff, but challenging yourself to actually keeping a certain beat and these other little nuances, like what you mentioned earlier, just changing something small makes a big difference. Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. Do you when you do clubs, do you like listen to anything to help with the tempo? Because I know when I first started doing clubs, I would put on hang drums, like because they have such a good like beat and it's really consistent. So when I was learning, I was really nice for me to have that, so I could like hit like, okay, when I'm here it needs to be on the beat, when I'm here it needs to be on the beat. And that was really helpful for me to like not, because I was really fast. I was doing
we all
like,
did that. We're singing them like
so that's how I started to figure out like the tempo, because it is there's like a rhythm, there's a tempo to doing clubs. Was like the hang drums. I would find like a slower beat and I was like, okay here, and like I would just hit those beats, and that was really that was a big help for me. My friend Marion told me to use hang drums.
Yeah, I mean, anything you can do that has kind of a very consistent beat. I always say that. Now, I grew up, I'm also a singer, so I'm a musician. So that immensely helped for me. So sometimes I will listen to music. Like if I'm just in the gym and I'm kind of exploring and putting together a flow or sequence, I'll have music on in the background and I'm kind of working with that. But other times I already have a particular beat or rhythm in my head, and then I'm just moving to that. So I kind of play around with all the options.
It's got that's cool that you were a musician. That's a fun transition in between. I could see that with your movements.
Yes,
your club patterns are so pretty. They look so nice and so smooth. And I have probably about 1 million of your videos saved of your club patterns. I I have like a different folders. Like I have 1 million folders. I love saving videos. And so I have like juggling folders.
Oh, you're so great with that. Like I can't even go into that world, but I've seen your growth of juggling and I'm like, man.
I love the juggling. The juggling for me is like very like music based for me on those. Those are I don't know, like I was never able to do like music or like dance, and I really wanted to growing up. So this is how I'm making it work for me now. I can't dance, I can't sing, but I can make a cool flow to the rhythm of this song. And that's not a thing most people can do. But like my juggling folder has like 1 million of Colin Daring 101 videos, because all of his movements are stunning. And then like my Clever Club one, it has like you and Bill and Steph and Zach Franken Legs. And I just like have them, and then Paul as well, because he has ones with like the little lights on the ends. And those are always really, really nice to like see like the movement patterns in there.
And it's cool because like everyone, even I've noticed that too, it's just like kettlebell juggling. Everyone has their own unique style, right? And that's what's cool eventually is you see the influence of their background, how it manifests in their swinging style. And so like for me with music and kind of that creativity, for me, it almost, and I used to perform. So I was a classical singer, so performed all that kind of stuff. I feel for me that club swinging is that musical outlet and performance outlet. So I think of it kind of like a performance. How can I create and express something through my movement? Clubs and music.
Yes.
So, and location. I love, like, if I can get good location, I'm just, I live in Texas and sometimes I'm like, man, there's another girl, she's in Colorado. I don't know if you know her, but part-time wanderer. Shout out to Amanda. I coached her on strong person stuff, but she's picked up clubs so well, and she's out in Colorado. I think you're in Colorado, right?
Yeah, I am in Colorado for the moment.
She's in Colorado. She'll go up to Utah and swing clubs in the most gorgeous places.
I know. That's what, when I lived in San Diego, when I lived in San Diego, I would coach on Saturday mornings at Core. And then my dog did not have separation anxiety, so I could leave the house. She now has very bad separation anxiety, so leaving the house is a little bit more of a trick. And so I used to just like go places, and I would just stop. Like I would go to a beach and I would flow and juggle or swing my mace, and it was so fun. I don't really have that here. There's also no water here, and I feel like a really good connection to like flow movements when I'm near the ocean.
Sure.
And I don't, this is all landlocked here. So I don't have that here. I'm hoping wherever they put us next that I get to be near some sort of body of water that has a flow so I can move with it. I know it sounds a little bit hippy dippy, but it really made a difference.
It's kind of when you're in the elements, you feel inspired by that.
Yeah, because I even when I lived or when I'd go to San Marcos, I coached all over San Diego. Any gym that would take me, I was doing work at, and so like I would like on the way home I would stop at like this little like sea marsh or whatever, and there'd be like water and birds, and it was really cool. And there's mountains here, and I can't breathe already. Like I'm not gonna hike on top of a mountain with a kettlebell. There's no oxygen already, man. And I'd have to take the dumb dog. I'd have to take her.
Gotta do it for the gram.
It's tough. So I mostly am just like right outside my backyard, which there's still a pretty cool mountain back there.
Well, see, that's the advantage of clubs, because I have, just some 1 pound clubs I'll put in my backpack, and I'm going hiking, and I can just pop them out, swing clubs.
Pretty things.
Yeah.
Yeah, kettlebells, unfortunately. At least the lightest one I have is 8 kilos, and that would still suck to carry up a mountain. And then if I drop it, I don't know if you follow Tanya. Tanya, I think she's Tanya KB Juggler on Instagram. She juggles up on top of a hill, and whenever she drops it, she has to run down the hill to get in. Just don't know that I would have the energy. I'm already like breathing heavy because nobody sees that part at the end of the juggle flow where I'm like, okay, I did it. And I'm all out of breath because it's just cardio basically. And like everyone's like, you're gonna hurt yourself, and I was like, this bell's 8 kilos, and it's just cardio work for me personally. And I was like, I'm breathing heavy at the end of this. Like that's what's happening. And doing that after hiking I would die.
Yeah, well, I mean, by that time you're like rucking, and then you're having a workout, and it's all the things.
Yeah, sometimes I go to the park. I used to go to the park a little bit, but I don't know. I have a flat space right here, so it's like I might as well. And I take my dog for a run, and then I do my juggling, and I'm done for the day. Yeah. Double cardio day. Different kinds of cardio.
That's my preferred too now, for the most part. Yeah. Gone are the excessive running.
Yeah. Do you run still? Do you like running?
So I do. Kind of fun story is I love trail running. So like on the dirt, right? And I fell in love with trail running in Colorado at the Garden of the Gods. So
okay.
yeah, my first experience there on the trails, I started running. I was like, what is this? It's amazing. I do belong to a running group here, and so I do that at least once a week. But I was definitely more involved several years ago. Like I ran a marathon, I ran a lot of half marathons. So my goals now are not so much in that realm, but I do love, like, now that the weather is wonderful and everything, I want to hit the trails more, like the dirt trails, and run, because I love running in earth runner sandals. So
I love those sandals.
people laugh at me all the time. I don't understand, but it's like
I
running
need to get new one. I literally wore those at my wedding. Like, I'm not joking. I had my little heels for whatever pictures I had to take, but when I took the heels off, I put on my earth runners, and I tried when I moved out here to get. There's a brand called Zero, that people like, and they're Colorado, and I was like, oh, let me support a local brand, and I didn't like them as much.
No.
I love the Earth Runners, so I'm currently like looking, and I'm probably gonna get another pair of those before summer, because I have like some like not they're like Amazon style Tiva, like they're Tiva.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same. And I walk so much. Like I'm walking every day, especially come summer, like spring, summer. I'm walking miles on miles every day, so it's really nice to have shoes that I like to wear. And I don't want to wear my running shoes everywhere, and also my feet become very pale, and it's stark. So I gotta get some sandals again. But I love Earth Runners. And I want to get some. I need to get some again. But yeah, I used to. It's so funny that you run multiple half marathons, because I did one half marathon and I crossed the finish line. I found he was my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, and I was like, that's the furthest I will ever run. Like I will never I will never do this again. And I haven't.
There you go.
I the top end of my running now is like 5 miles. But typically it's 3. I stick around 3. That's about how far she likes to go, because if I'm running outside, I'm running with the dog, because otherwise I have to do it twice. And I'm not doing it twice. Yeah, 3, about 2 to 4 is like my happy zone. 5 is the end of it. I'm interested to see how it feels when we move to a lower elevation, though. I'm like really excited. I visited my family in December. My sister had a show. I flew back to see her, and I was trying to run outside, and then it was lightning and storming, and it wasn't going to happen. So I ran on the treadmill, and it was so fun. It was so fast. I was like, oh my god, there's so much oxygen down here. This is great. So I'm really excited whenever we, because God willing, we'll be out of here, and we can move on somewhere new. And I'm excited to be. I don't think we can be at a higher elevation at this point. So wherever we go,
it's only going to get lower.
At least not in the States. I don't think there's any bases at a higher elevation. So
is your husband in the military?
Yeah, he's in the Army.
In the Army. Oh, okay.
No, not me. Not me. No, my husband's in the Army. So I live. Throw my laptop. So I live. I'm like I'm on a base and everything, which has also been really nice for my running, even though I don't like running here as much because it's just harder. Even though I've lived here for a while, like it's easier than when we first moved here, but it's still not as fun and easy as it was when I lived in San Diego.
Sure.
So like, and I know it's been 3 years, which should be easy. It should be back to normal, but it's just not. So I'm excited to move down, but that's the nice thing about living here. Is what I was saying was there's trails everywhere, and it's like safe. Like I don't feel that's why I got the dog, was for a running partner. Because when I lived in San Diego, by the end of my half marathon training, like I had to stop. It was really scary to run outside. Like the trails I would frequent to do my running, there'd be like the same kind of guy, and he'd be there, and it was like he kind of like, I could see him the whole time, and then he would show up on other places. Like
Right.
it was weird, and I didn't like it. So I was like, "Oh, we get a fucking dog." And I didn't really I only got to run with her for a little bit in San Diego, but she fucking hates men. So nobody's following me now. I will know immediately. Both of us have very high anxiety levels. So,
So you'll know.
so everyone, I have a good radius. As soon as someone comes, near, she does like a little like back check, and she's
Sure.
like very like checking everything around. And
That's how my dog is. I have a German Shepherd, so she can tell if someone's behind me, and we'll both be, head on a swivel.
I'm sure we look hilarious when we're running, because she'll do her little check and then I'll check, and then she's like, "Oh, mom's looking," so we'll both be like looking back. We look outrageous, I'm sure. Especially because I have my little waist leash and we're just jogging along.
Right.
But it's nice, and also it gets me running. Like, I probably wouldn't be running as much up here if it wasn't for her,
Or
because
the dog, it gets you out. Yeah.
she needs it. And if we don't, because she only runs once or twice a week. Sometimes it's just once, like depending on the weather. Like, it's gonna be garbage on Saturday and probably lightning. I'm not gonna run with her
Sure.
outside. That would be dangerous. So I'll
Right.
probably run on like the treadmill or whatever. But like, if she doesn't get like one day of like steady state cardio, I guess, we can feel it in this house. And steady state's, I guess, a bit of a stretch. We tend to do intervals, because she wants to smell things.
Yeah, that's how it is with a dog. Yep, gotta stop.
And you know what? I'm probably out of breath anyways. So.
I'm fine. We can stop.
Oh no! You want to smell this blade of grass for 15 seconds? Darn! I guess we'll have to take a second to breathe.
So how do you like?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a component sometimes, and I've played around with different things like training multiple systems kind of all at once. So like if we have multiple goals, have you always kind of just maybe specifically focused on, okay, I'm going through kind of a strength phase, or have you kind of try to train for multiple goals? Because I'm kind of in that, well, for the past year, mine was very much strength, tap into hypertrophy a little bit, but no real conditioning or anything like that. Now I'm morphing into kind of a little bit broader. I'm adding some cardio back in just through my running. I'll probably at least 1 or 2 days a week. So, and I feel like for the most part, you can train multiple goals. It will take longer, but if that's also, I mean, fitness for me is I want to be doing this until, I can no longer do it anymore or whatever. So it's not like an end. I have to reach something at a particular age or a timeline per se, depending on what it is. So if I want to be holistic, I kind of like training multiple things. I mean, I'll go in waves, like, but ultimately I still think you can kind of train a little bit, all of it. If you're doing it smartly. And so how do you do that?
It depends for me. So at the end of last year, I was training, it was like 70-80% of the way through my heavy bench press work. And then I was also training biathlon, which is jerks and snatch. And I found, and like I was training them both, and so I would kind of try at like when I was like 10 weeks out from my competition for biathlon, I was able to like maintain my bench press work the way that I wanted to. But as I got closer, I had to reduce my bench press work, because my body does this is what I found, is my body does not like doing doubles, and like double kettlebell, like double jerks or double long cycle and bench press. It is a lot of stress on my body, and the combination of that was, the fatigue was insane. Like I was having to take a lot more rest than I did like between sets, but also just like more days, like because typically I'm training 5-6 days a week at various capacities.
Yes.
Like I'm not training hard every single day. And I was training maybe like 4 days, which is like not very much, and and I was still wiped. Like I didn't feel good. So for me, it was like a balancing act. So of like, how do I do this? How do I do this sport training and the bent press training? And what we had to do is we reduced like the percentage of the weight that I was working at. So I was supposed to be working at like 70%. So we reduced it to like 50. So I could like maintain.
You're right, because you're not going to be able
doing.
to peak on either one, right?
I can't. Yeah, and I couldn't.
You
And
can
it was
train both systems in a way, but the intensity levels for sure have to.
Yeah, and then like so you have to like as I got closer to my competition, I rolled back the bent press work. But there was like 2 weeks in there where I was training both like I would be by themselves, and I felt so crappy. I was just like, this isn't good. Like I didn't want to get up. I couldn't. My sleep was messed up, and I was like, this isn't working. So talking with Dan, and I was like, I signed up for this competition, so like I gotta do it. I told my client, because we were kind of doing like a solidarity thing. I was like, I'm gonna do this competition. And he's like, well, your goal right now is not bent pressing. Your goal right now is sport. So you got to roll back your bent pressing if you want to do the sport. Damn it. All right. So that's how I just kind of have to. I kind of like, I peaked up in sport, and I lowered the wave in bent pressing. And then it felt better. I mean, it still kind of sucked because I don't like doing jerks, but that's a separate issue entirely. But now what I'm doing, because I'm still doing a little bit of sport, is I find that I can still snatch, which is better anyways, because I prefer snatching over anything else anyways. And I found that I can do up to about like 5 minutes of snatching without it being like so taxing. Like I can recover very quickly from 5 minutes, which I know sounds insane to people who don't do sport, but 5 minutes for me at the weight, because I'm working at 16, which is like a very easy weight for me to snatch. Like I can recover from that. So like that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing my 3 days of different styles of bent press. It's not like all bent pressing. It's it's a bunch of different random things, different forms, and it's not very heavy. And then I'm doing my once a week of snatching to maintain, because I love snatching and I don't want to lose my technique. And also I coach a lot of sport lifters, so I can't lose my sport. And I'll go back to doing like competition as the way I used to, but I don't think it's not as right now. I want to bent press, and I want to bent press stupid heavy. And if I want to bent press stupid heavy, I can't do all the other things.
Do you find the bent pressing heavy has helped your sport though?
Not really. No, not for not for kettlebell sport. Like I presume if I did like a normal strength sport, like it probably would, but because it's kettlebell sport is all it's endurance.
Yeah,
I'm not doing bent presses like that. Though I do feel like my snatching helps my bent pressing, because it's my sport snatches. When I do like a heavy sport snatch day, I feel that in my lats. I use my freaking lats for bent pressing. So like there's a little bit of a crossover, but like I don't think, because my bent press work is very like max strength, like that's what I'm working towards essentially. Sure. And sport is like endurance strength. It's a different thing. But I love them both. I just can't do everything at the same time. So that's what I've been trying to figure out like through the last couple weeks, because I just, like I said, I did the last 2 weeks. I finished my week 2 for my bent press stuff, and I think it's working. I think if I am not an idiot and I don't go over 5-6 minutes on my snatching, I can probably keep this going.
I hear you on that. I would agree with that a little bit. So for example, like a 5-minute snatch test in the hard style realm, we do 100 snatches in 5 minutes or less. That's obviously less with it. For me, a 16 kg, that's just a warm up. I literally can go in and do that and not really,
it's not a thing.
right? So then I know I could go after that and do some heavy bench press work. So it wouldn't really negate anything there. And I think also too, like the trick with, and everyone's individual on this, the amount that of volume we can handle on overhead work or upper body and on particular lifts is different. You know, I can do so many more sets with chest press, right? So like a lot of volume there than I could with overhead, just shoulder press. So because you got obviously triceps and other things that are fatiguing or giving out. So that goes into how you program, you know, with somebody. And that's why I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but that's why like cookie cutter programs, you know, are not really gonna take you into to get you into that more specific goal. Like for sure they can help and they can build some strength, but like if you are looking to progress drastically in a certain area, you have to have a customized specialized program because they're going to know where you're lagging in certain areas, or they'll know what areas are going to fatigue first or what needs more
and what areas we need to build in.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, for females, we tend to have, you know, generally more endurance in our lower body than men, less in our upper body. So, you know, it's those kinds of things to factor in. I know when I program for people, you know, I have to consider that stuff as well, you know. It makes a difference.
Yeah, it's tricky, and like there's so many things I want to do, and I just you gotta pick and choose the waves that you're riding. And my thought at the moment is like I feel like people do sport for forever. Like there's literally a category called legends. Like people do sport for forever. Like I went to my first Cali Open. Like there was like old guys doing double 24s for 10-minute sets. Like, so like, I think there's like a really long time I could do that with bench pressing. And I think I'll be doing bench pressing for as long as I possibly can. But I think there's a point where I'm not going to be able to get any heavier.
Sure.
And I would like to hit that. I would like to be at like my peak strength for that. And I don't know when that is, but I would like to be bench pressing when I am at my peak strength.
You bring up a good point there because yeah, I guess it will determine a lot of factors. You know, usually you can go off of obviously biology and science, like when we are at our most strong at certain ages, but a lot of that I think depends on obviously nutrition, how we're training, lifestyle factors,
how long you've been training,
window is right. But then you see, and I'm always impressed, I'll follow accounts of women in their 70s that are powerlifting, lifting heavier numbers than me right now, and like that's what I want to be, you know. So
that's what I want to do.
Yeah, there's a capability that they could do, and they didn't even necessarily start training in their 30s or 20s. They might have started in their 50s or 60s. So they obviously got smart coaches. They were training right. So, you know, I think is keep pushing it and trying it for as long as you possibly can, and then your body will tell you, you know.
Yeah, my body will tell me. Yeah, I know there's some point where it's just going to be like that's the top end of it, and that's cool, but I want to find that top end when I'm as strong as humanly possible, because like I'm really close to having the all time. So I want it really bad. So that's sort of where I'm training.
What I'm trying to think of who has there, what's the top number for like women with bench press, but like with barbell? Who is it?
I don't know if it's barbell, but the one that we have found that has been authenticated, which has been very hard to find because they did not keep female records. Beth, I don't know her last name. Beth is SKW on Instagram. She's fabulous, but she's like my old weird strength person. She tagged me in this thing from like a person from Instagram account that posts like old timey strong person things. And there's a woman named Miriam Kate Williams back in like the early 1900s, and she has the heaviest authenticated bench press record we can find, and it's 56.5 kilograms. which is very doable for me.
You know,
like
know her stats, like her stature or anything like that? Does it give that? Doesn't say.
there's just a picture of her and she's flexing. That's like the only thing we can find. But there's also like maybe like the great Sandwina like did it press, but like nothing says that it's a bench press. So it's really hard to find. So at this point I'm working with that number because it's the only number that I have that's like been authenticated in one way or another. I don't know how, but the thing said it was authenticated. I presume it was at some sort of competition or something back in the day. She was a Welsh strong woman, and apparently a total badass. So, but like I know there's been some other ones like like Sandwina and stuff like that. People were like maybe hers because I know she put like her husband over her head, but that could have just been like a jerk for all we know, or a get up. And so I feel like there would have been something saying that it was a bit. Also, I don't know how the fuck you would put a man like back here. Like,
have you seen anybody bench press a human being? I don't think we've seen that.
I don't think. You know what? I did see. I swear. I think I saw Peter Neiman bench press Colleen. A few weeks ago.
There's been get ups.
Sure. I don't know. You'd have to just. So like that's the thing is it's really hard to like track down anything. So that's the record that I have found. So that's what I'm working with on.
So you're going for 7 kilograms more than that.
I'm starting at 57 and then we'll keep going. Like because my ultimate goal is I would like to bench press my body weight. That would be like my big one, which I don't actually know how much I weigh, but it's definitely more than 56. But whenever we get closer to that, I'll do a weigh-in. But that's like my big overarching ultimate, like one day. If I can bench press my own weight, I'll be very pleased with myself.
Well, you need to get Guinness Book of World Records there for that one.
I think I could just submit. Because people just submit their records. And as far as I know, there's no woman alive who can bench press 50 kilos other than me.
No, there is a lady, I know she did a get up with, she's in Russia or Slavic or one of those. I follow her, I can't think of her account right now, but she was doing it with a kettlebell. I'm pretty sure she did like a 50 kg or something get up. It was
get up.
Yes, I
don't care about get up. I'm not trying to break the Guinness record.
I know, but for a female to do that with that kind of weight, and she made
pressure on the forearm, like we were talking about earlier. That's I think the heaviest I've done on get up is significantly lighter, just because I have to hold it for so freaking long. But like the heaviest I've seen a video of has been 48. Which is why I did 50. which is why I brought my little magnets along, was so I could pop it on.
And were you using like competition bells for that?
I did for the big attempt because that's what I could find. My training was all hard style bells.
Okay. Because like I know my 48 kg, it's just got a massive handle. It's so large. And I know
when I was doing my training, because I would go to a gym off base called Vasa because it was the heaviest freaking bells I could find. That's why I switched to barbell. Genuinely, it was because I couldn't find kettlebells up here, and I had to drive to. I'm in Colorado Springs. I had to drive to Denver to get my hands on that bell. Like, and I can't be driving to Denver all the time. It's a pain in the butt. When I was training off base, the heaviest bell, they had like 90 pounds. So and it was just awful, this awful weird thick handle, and like the bell had like an angle on it, which is why I was like I had to get the stupid wristbands on, because I was jutting. I had like 40 kilos jutting into my forearm, and it sucked. So when I went to, it was the Colorado Weightlifting Club at the time, I don't think it's what it's called anymore, and they had sport bells, I was like, hell yes, because I know where my hand needs to be in a sport bell. Like I know exactly where to put everything, so it's very comfortable, because lift some work bells all the time. So when that was the case, I was like, this is so nice. I felt pretty confident going into it because I was like, I know how to hold this bell and I know how to make this work.
Right. Because
So
they're pretty much all uniform too. Like you're not going to have variations, obviously.
they're yeah.
Style bells.
Sometimes the handles are a little bit thinner, but like the bell itself
Yeah.
is the same
More
size.
thin.
Like that's the whole point. So when you move up in weight, you don't have to make
So
your stance
advantageous.
wider.
Yes.
But it's so, and then you see the stupid 40K like card style bells, and they're like so big, and you're like, but why? You can obviously fit it into
Right.
this very nice size.
They're so hard to
They're such a pain in the butt. So it's so dumb. When we can clearly just fit it into a bell that works.
Right.
That's so much easier for people to handle.
I agree. I don't have access to comp bells a lot, but when I do, I love to play with them because I feel
nice.
that they are more comfortable, especially for like the heavy lifts. Yeah.
They're really nice. And I really like them when I used to do like, when I teach, I don't teach people in person anymore, but when I taught in person for like push-ups and stuff, it was really nice.
Oh yeah.
Because they don't wobble and it like their wrists feel better on it. They're just nice. But that's all I have basically. I have one hard style. But I got all my stuff when core shut down, so I just was like, let me collect all my bells.
That's right.
Wander out of here. Yeah, they're it's so silly. It's so silly, like why the bells are so big when they can clearly just be a uniform size. There's some guy with some big ego being like, look at how big the bell I'm swinging is.
It's an awkward thing because like if you're trying to clean and squat, the beast, and the one that I have too is like it's just very small window, so you feel like your hands are like this. You hardly have any, and the pressure actually on my sternum is immense.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. Sometimes it's like, wow, this really hurts.
Yeah.
So if you had like a more compact bell, like it's great because you're working with kind of an unusual object or whatever, and I think there's value to that. But yeah, for some things.
But also when you're trying to PR, it would be nice to have a bell that's like not fighting you the entire way.
Right. And it's funny because it has nothing to do with your strength per se. It's just center of mass, how it's throwing you off. And so it's interesting.
Yeah. It's weird. And so I don't design bells. There might be some sort of reason behind it, but
yeah,
not for me to decide, and I won't be designing any kettlebells. So I'll let whoever does that do that.
Right.
Well, I guess I should probably let you go because we've been talking for a while now. Where can people find you? How can they work with you? Like, tell me all the things.
So I'm on Instagram. That's my main thing at Boldt Fit Technique. So you can send me a DM. I have under my link tree access to a beginner, intermediate, and kind of a choreography program for Indian clubs. So if you're interested in how to progress, I have progressive options there. Also have links to all my workshops that I'm doing this year with club work. So if you're in different parts of the United States, you can find me. You can also reach out to me for programming, coaching. I'll do all sorts of things there with kettlebells and clubs. So yeah.
Yeah, and maces. Just put it all in there. Cool. And I'll make sure I have all of that linked in our show notes so everyone can find you. Honestly, you should definitely be following her. She's awesome. Like I said, I have about 1 million of her videos saved for reference to look how her club patterns are just stunning. And awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. And I will chat with you later.
All right. And that was my episode with Monica. She is absolutely lovely. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Like I said, you can follow her on Instagram at Boldt Fit Technique. And if you're interested in working with her, her website has a bunch of different ways you can do that. BoldtFitTechnique.com, and check out those club workshops if you're in the area, because they're going to be absolutely wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time.